So I'm going to just do a quick introduction to the camera. So, hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Luis. I am your lender next door, and today I have a guest speaking with me, Mr. Loren. How are you doing today?
What's going on, Luis? How are you, bud?
Not too bad, not too bad. I appreciate you for letting me do a podcast here with you today.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. I'm glad you made it out. I know we've been talking about it for a while, and here we are. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. So Loren isn't just an investor, but he's also a previous client of mine as well. I've helped him out with the loan side with some of your purchases. So I just wanted to go ahead and talk about that just briefly, just kind of get a little bit more of your story on that.
Yeah, so I've been always interested in real estate, but mostly I've made my money in, I own a couple businesses and stock market, and I've always been interested in the real estate side, but living in California and being interested in having the money to do it are sometimes two different things. So,
Yeah, no, definitely.
anyways, we both have a mutual friend of Jonathan that moved to Texas, and
Shout out Jonathan.
yeah, Jonathan is our boy. And so, with that being said, when he moved out there, he was telling me about the opportunities and so forth. So, I had put in offers on a few of them, to say the least. And then, I finally found a deal that I was willing to work with, but it took some searching. It
Oh
took
yeah,
about a year and a half to actually find something. It took Jonathan writing several deals before I was
something.
actually satisfied with something. So, but in doing that, Jonathan was definitely a, a great partner to be with, and then he introduced me to you as well, and then you've been a great partner too. That's why we're here
Yeah, I
doing
appreciate
this.
that.
So yeah, no, absolutely. It's a circle, man. You got in this industry. It's about relationships and building that relationship, and then growing upon that relationship. And I've recognized that, even though full disclaimer, this is not what I do full time. This is just expanding my portfolio, if you
Portfolio, right?
will. So yeah,
Yeah.
but in doing that, and having businesses, it's having a good team too, and you guys are a good team. So that's important to me, and that's why we're here today doing this. So
No, yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
appreciate it again, and some of the things I wanted to talk about, right? Because I always tell people, it's one thing when you're speaking to an investor that's either a realtor, lender, et cetera, in the business, right? But from your standpoint, your perspective, right? Not just being the investor of the current properties that you own as well, but also being as a buyer. Like, what are some differences that you can say, or some of the things that most people don't know when it comes to investing in real estate? Because that's the thing. I feel like when we're on social media, we tell people what they want to hear, right?
Yeah.
But we know, just like with any sort of investment, there's the good, the bad, the ugly, right, and the unknown, right?
Yeah.
Were there ever any thoughts that came to mind during that time when you were, thinking about investing in some?
Yeah, like I said, I'm pretty heavy in stocks, so I told Jonathan when I investing, I want 10% of my money, cash on cash, COC, I want 10%, and I think that's why it took a little bit longer, because I had to find the right deal, because I'm like, investing as in the stock, I'm easily, I make 10% on that stuff pretty easily,
Right.
so um, especially in the last few years. But so part of my parameters and buy box was to find stuff that I can, cash flow. But also some of that was, finding properties too that I could force equity, which means I'm going to do a rehab. I'm going to fix it up. So that was part of the program too for me, knowing that I can force equity to improve the value of the property. It was kind of another key for me too, almost a Burr strategy, if you will. So
Right.
people talk about Burr. So um, that was kind of what I had in mind going into this too. I was looking for properties that were in need of help. My buy box, so my search, if you will, were two ones, 2 bedroom, 1 bath, or 3 ones, 3 bedroom, 1 bath, and that was what I was looking for in certain zip codes that made sense for what Jonathan and I had discussed about what rents are going for. So believe it or not, I've with all these gurus, like you say, they talk about mailers and go knock on doors and drive streets and all that. I don't have time for that stuff,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
Like,
No, 100%.
I went on MLS. I'm on Zillow even, and just finding deals. And I just happened to find someone that had a portfolio they were selling that had a couple properties in the buy box I was looking for in the 2-1, 3-1s, and then I, had additional properties tied to that. So I just looked that up, and then I was like, okay, I think we can make something work here because there were already rental units anyway. So
Right.
some of them were already rented out. So that was half the legwork for me,
Right.
especially doing the DSCR loan with you, where you guys need to you know, show what the rental income will be. Well, the proof is in the pudding. It's already written that, it's already
Right,
rented out.
exactly. Yeah,
So
and that's what makes it easier when you're doing those types of financing, right? Because all they're looking for is essentially that the house is going to be paid for by the
right,
tenant, right?
exactly.
They just want to make sure you're not coming out of pocket with, coming in with the mortgage. They just want to see, okay, what are the market rents? What can they be at? And that also helped you out as well with an indicator like to know, am I below market rents or am I above market rents? And how do we adjust accordingly based off of the work that, we're going to put in here and so forth. But
Yeah, and we did come across that too because two of the houses that were rented out were obviously below rent, and so there's an opportunity there too without not even moving them out
right,
necessarily. Just increasing their rent a little bit and, just to get them up to market rent. I mean, that was almost a 15-20% gain right there,
oh yeah.
and just bringing them up to market, so.
And the cool thing that if I recall from our purchase was like even some of the houses you guys were able to negotiate it so well put together as a portfolio. Like you actually didn't just get like tenants there, but you even
Yeah.
bought equity like without putting a finger into the houses. So I could only imagine.
Well, I'm a deal guy, man. If it's not a good deal, I'm not in a hurry, like my weekend car. It took me 6 years to find a good deal I like. So, I'm a patient guy. If I find a good deal, then I'm ready to pull the trigger when I
Oh
find a
yeah.
good deal. And like I said, Jonathan had submitted several offers for me. Like I said, this was a year and a half in the making, just because I'm that particular. And like I said, this is not my daily thing. I just trying to expand my portfolio, if you will. So, but when I did find this, I I bundled the package, if you will, like I do in business. And he had 5 properties, but 4 of them I found suitable. The other one was a little bit more than I wanted to get involved with, especially not being in state. These are in Texas. I'm in California, so.
Right.
But that one was a little bit a heavier lift than I wanted to get involved in. So I offered on the 4 just to take it off his hands, but I knocked him down 25% out the gate.
Oh yeah.
And and he came back. He wanted another 10% on based on that 25. I knocked him down. So in my mind, I was thinking that he was probably just trying to cover commission. So I told Jonathan, I said, give him another 2%, and but hold our guns. If I knocked him down that deep, and he's willing to negotiate, he's willing to move.
Right.
So I said, stick to it. We'll stick to our guns. Give him another 2% just to cover some of the closing costs or whatever expenses that he has, where sales commissions or whatever. But and see what he does. I mean, like I said, it's not my full-time gig. This
Yeah.
is, hey, if you want to make a deal, then let's make a deal. If not, then no skin off my back, no harm, and this and that. So, so that's what we did, and he accepted the deal, and there you go.
Here we go. Yeah. What is it like? 7 months later? 8 months later?
Yeah, that was September of 25, September of 25. So,
Oh, 8 months.
yeah, so it was 6 doors total. So 4 of them were already rented out, or 4 doors were rented out. So I had to rehab 2. So those are now rent it out. We did a full renovation. I don't know if you want to drop in before and after pictures, but you know.
But no, we should definitely share that with the audience too, because they're gonna be like, it's like night and day,
Yeah,
night and day.
they were definitely in need of rehab. So let's don't kid ourselves here. They were rough.
Let's talk a little bit about that,
Yeah.
right? Because we are talking about the successes, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Now let's talk about the grimy part. Like
Yeah,
oh
yeah,
man, didn't expect that. Because I've actually, like, I want to say 99.9% of the people I speak to, whether it's a purchase, whether it's a first home, investment, etc., there's always like, well, we didn't know that house needed this much work or that much.
yeah.
Or maybe we weren't expecting these unexpected costs to come up, right? So do you want to
Yeah,
touch
I
up on?
mean, these are my first rentals, so I've flipped a house in before, so and I've worked on my own house. I've worked on other houses too. That it's not my main gig. It's just things that I like doing it, so it is what it is. So you know, being out of state though too, you're not exactly sure of labor cost and material costs for the most part seem to be the same, but it's the labor is the difference.
Right.
So, that was a little bit of a curveball for me. And also being out of state and being so hands on that I am.
You actually were. Every time I went on Instagram and I opened up my stories, I see Jonathan right there, and I click on his story and I'm like, Loren's there. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like you weren't just like, I'm gonna see them when I get a chance. No, you were there. You were like.
Yeah, I mean, I like to take pride in my stuff. So I mean, I was doing the color palette stuff. I mean, I was matching up tiles, and I talked to the Bear rep at Home Depot, and I got a discount from them from showing that I'm going to be doing all these properties, and I needed paint, so they offer me the pro discount, if you will, and
Yeah.
all that. So I got set up there, and then she gave me a whole color palette to go through stuff. So, I was trying to match everything up, and I like that kind of stuff too. So even though it's not my main gig, I do enjoy, that side of the equation. And so, like I said, I'm hands on. I want to take pride in what I'm putting out there too.
Right.
I don't want to be the slumlord. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be something that hey, this guy, he takes care of his stuff. Hopefully, then the tenant says, I'm going to take care of it too. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I have in mind. Plus, I want to bring in hopefully a better tenant as well, because they're like, hey, this thing's nice. So in doing that though, I'm asking for a little bit of a premium to the market though too,
Right.
to try to bring in a better tenant as well. So they did give me a hard time when I was out there, and this and that. They're like, oh, you're spending too much money. You should just fix the door instead of replacing. I said, it's $160, man. Like, I just rather it be nice. I feel better.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
so-
Well, it's because I feel that sometimes you put yourself in their shoes, right? The
Yeah.
person that's gonna be living there, like, would I
Yeah.
live here? How much would I genuinely pay to live in this home,
Yeah.
right? And it's when you start thinking about that, you start attracting the tenants you're looking for, right? Someone that's
Right.
gonna appreciate the craftsmanship and the work that's been put into making this room or this home into this house into a home is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
And that's what separates differences, especially when you're hands-on. You're very meticulous, checking what can be done, right? Like, I know we were talking just a few minutes ago about the doorknobs, right, on your dressers or in your drawers. Like, every little bit of it was thought out, right?
Yeah.
You're like, this is what I want on here, and this is why. Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
that's very admirable for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a blessing, maybe it's a curse. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I feel if I put out a quality product, hopefully I get quality people. So, and again, this is new for me. These are I bought 4 at one time, right? So, if I'm doing something, go big or go home. We used to say back in the day,
Yeah.
but so that's where I'm at. But I feel that if I put out a quality product that hopefully people respect, and even the new people that moved into the rehabs we did, they message me, hey man, this place is great. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
cool.
nice.
Treat it like your own, man. I appreciate it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm looking for right there. Hey, this place is great. Like, okay, boom, that works.
Yeah, well, it's
So
like you said, you didn't want to be the kind of person that was like a slumlord, right?
yeah,
Because
no,
there's some people
absolutely not.
that will not fix the houses, and then
Yeah,
they're like, okay, well, the tenants trashed it. You didn't fix this, you didn't do that, you know?
yeah,
So it's like, hey, there's challenges for sure, you know. But one of the things that really did catch my attention, right, was not just you talking about going out there and putting on the hands-on stuff, but you mentioned you have like a buy box, right?
yeah.
Was there any like influence behind that buy box, or how did you come up with that?
Well, that was again. Jonathan lives out there, so he had spoken about, his rentals are in that neighborhood, and that's the most popular at the time was, the 2 1s, 3 1s. So I just kind of narrowed down to that. So even the 2 1s with a garage, you could still convert that to a 3 1.
Right. Yeah.
So that was kind of I was kind of looking 2 1s with a garage, and if I needed to convert it, then I can convert it, make a 3 1. That also forces equity too, because now you're, instead of a 2 bedroom, you have a 3 bedroom. So, which, in that whole bird strategy, I'm trying to do the rehab, refinance, all that stuff. Um, so that was kind of my buy box right there, just based on, the local in the area telling me, what's popular,
Right.
what things go for, a lot of people use that 1% rule, but I don't really think that works, to be honest with you. I mean, uh, everything when I was crunching numbers, that 1% gets you a, yeah, okay, maybe I should look at it more, or there's no way,
Yeah. Right.
but to be a rule of thumb is, that 1% doesn't work that great. I mean, coming again from the stock side, I said I want to make 10%, so that was kind of my determination as well. And other people use different, you know,
Methods and
yeah,
like yeah.
Matrix and so forth.
Yeah.
And there are other ones out there, and and those are the guys doing it full time and all this and that. And for me, I was just trying to keep it simple. I'm looking for a 5, 10 year hold on this. This is not something I'm flipping. This is something that I plan to keep the 5 to 10 years, and then roll. Maybe I do 1031, or there's different ways. There's so many different ways. People will say, hey, what are you gonna? It depends on where you're at.
Right.
It depends what you want to do. There's, just like investing too. People are like, oh, well, what should I invest in? Well, how old are you? What's your risk tolerance? Where are you at in your financial? I mean, there's so many aspects to, and so many ways to go about it, that it just depends on you. Tailor fit to you. Take these other ideas that people do on YouTube, and interviews like this, and then make it your own. Tailor, make it for you.
Right.
Just absorb stuff though, but make it fit to what you're doing. And
Yeah. What is some advice that you could recommend to new investors, right, that are thinking about this? Because I like the message behind make it about yourself, plan it
yeah,
out for yourself for your future, you know?
yeah.
Like, I guess, what is some advice you would share with somebody that's thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, I love seeing younger people, and I hope this is what this video reaches with the younger guys. I mean, Jonathan's younger than me, you're younger than me. I love that you guys are like so into it. Like that just makes, that pumps me up. I love that energy. You hear so many people complaining these days, like, oh, the boomers and this and that. I'm like, it's, avoid the noise. Do what's going to make work for you,
Right.
and tailor make life for you. Don't worry about what other people did. Like I tell my son is 21, right? And I tell him the wheel's already made. Just you know, make the wheel better. Don't try to, complain about other stuff, and oh, it's too hard. Okay, it's hard for every generation, right? But find your niche, right? So I guess my message would be, just don't stop trying, and take base hits. Base hits are okay. You don't have to hit a home run all the time, right? do a bunt, base hit, get on
Yeah.
base, but just, you can score from base hits, right? Like, just be consistent, right? And educate yourself. The biggest thing, though, too, is educate yourself because this stuff, I don't know what they teach in school these days, and I don't want to go down that road, but but they don't necessarily teach this investments, real estate or otherwise, stocks and so forth, banking necessarily. So you have to take it upon yourself to educate yourself. You have to spend that time and educate yourself. I mean, I even tell my son, I said, listen, I said, I wish we had this YouTube
YouTube,
and all that
TikTok.
stuff that you guys have today. I mean, unless you knew somebody,
Yeah.
you didn't know about it, but now you can go on YouTube, you can go on the internet, you can, obviously you gotta, qualify, but I mean, there's billionaires with all these, channels and stuff on there, and they're great. While I was writing offers, I was still learning. I'm well above your age. Well, we'll talk about that later. But I'm still learning, right?
Right.
Like my message, don't never stop learning.
Well,
You have to always keep learning.
have to. You have to remain a student
Yeah,
at that. I think that's
absolutely.
what's really helped me out with my career. It's because I'll learn from anybody,
Yeah,
whether they've been doing this for 20 years or even
exactly,
2 months, right?
exactly.
Because there's something you can always get better at every single day,
Yeah,
right? And that's what I really appreciate. And like I was mentioning earlier, I really do appreciate you jumping on this podcast to talk to me because I can learn more as well,
yeah,
right? We can learn from each other. And it goes to the audience as well. Like they can sit here, listen to us, and learn a thing or two. Maybe they might even comment, leave a suggestion, and we might learn something there and so forth. But like knowledge and just education is so easily accessible now.
yeah,
It's hard to not find success in your niche, especially like if you're studying it. And of course, like you said, verify who it's coming from. Make sure you're getting your sources because there's plenty of people like for $5,000, buy my course right now, and you'll be a millionaire in 3 days. Like
yeah.
what?
That's definitely a red flag for me. Some of these, they're like, oh yeah, well, and I'm like, okay, all right. So you have to take stuff with a grain of salt sometimes,
Right.
but
Yeah.
um, but like I said, hopefully this reaches younger people that are like, listen, don't excuses don't pay the bills, man. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's hard for you guys, and I get it. I get it, right? The whole boomer thing, and oh, they bought a house for strawberries and all. I get it. I get it. And I'm not saying it's not easy. Like, it took me a while to be, in the position to do it myself too. But you know, you, sometimes you have to cut back on something. Delayed gratification, if you
I
will,
love that one.
right?
I love that one right there.
So, and I bought my first place when I was 22 years old, right? So, but was I going out to the club every weekend? Was I have the latest clothes? Did I have the best phone? Like, no, I didn't have any of that, right? I mean, I was still going to school. I was reading books in my hallway, trying to get through college, and working a full-time job just to pay for, I had a 750 square foot condo I bought, and people are like, oh well, I need to start off, this big house. No, base hits, take your base hit, right? Get
Right.
on base. The key is get on base, right?
100%. No, I agree with you on that because I noticed with a lot of buyers right now, like just lately. And I've noticed this trend, you know, everybody wants their dream house first.
Yeah,
But it's like you said, you got
yeah,
to get to first base.
yeah,
Start somewhere. Even
yeah,
if you have a small condo, 700 square feet.
yeah,
Like the way I can explain it sometimes is like nobody's still driving their first car that they got in
yeah,
high school.
yeah,
Right? Everybody, you get your bucket for a couple years. You
yeah.
stay there, as long as it gets you to A to B, and then later on you get a higher paying job, now you get a nicer car, and then you
Sure.
family, and now you're getting an SUV and so forth. So it's like getting to that base, right? And I know there's challenges, especially with our generation with buying home affordability, but to give up on that dream,
Hmm.
there's no excuse.
Well, also, and I know I keep referring to my son, but we're very close. So um, I tell him, I said, he likes to work out. So I said, listen, I said, just like it takes time to grow your muscles, it takes time to grow your money. It takes time to grow your wealth. But if you stay consistent with it, you're seeing the progress. It's the same thing in the wealth,
Right.
right? But it's the consistency. It's the everyday, right? If you're playing, if you're on video games 3 hours, right? Maybe do video games an hour and a half and study an hour and a half. You know what I mean? Like break it up a little bit, right? And it's like, you know, people like sports too, right? So they can tell you every stat of every player and what college they went to and this and that. But then ask them who the top 7 companies are or who their CEOs are. Well, I don't know. Okay. Well, take some of that. And I'm not saying don't watch sports, nothing. I'm
Yeah.
not saying that at all. I'm just saying, you know, use some of your time for something that's going to move you forward,
Right.
that can build your wealth. You can't sit there and complain about not having wealth if you ain't putting in the time. It's at the end of the day, right?
Right.
If you don't put in the time, how are you going to get results? It's the same thing working out. If you don't work out, how are your muscles going to get bigger?
Right. Yeah. I
You know,
mean,
the only way they get bigger is you working out.
or testosterone, right?
Well, I don't.
No, no. I'm like, is my mic on? No, I'm kidding. No, I know. No, it is true though. You have to continuously, like the rule that I love to hear is get 1% better every single day, no matter what it is you do. It could be in your business, family, career, personal.
Yeah.
You have to. Otherwise, you're gonna stay stagnant. And when you stay stagnant, you fall behind. And when you fall behind, oh well, I couldn't get ahead because the economy. Couldn't get ahead because my girlfriend broke up with me. Couldn't get ahead because, well, the library was closed.
Check it out.
The Wi-Fi went out.
You can't deposit excuses.
Exactly. Amen. Amen.
Anyways, but yeah, I mean, excuses are easy. Hard work is hard. Choose your hard.
Exactly.
Choose your hard. Do you want to live the way that's, you can't do this and that because you don't have the money? Or do you want to have the money, but it was hard to get the money, right?
Exactly.
So choose your hard. Life is hard. Doesn't matter which way, just choose your hard. And sometimes choosing your hard is putting in the extra work, and making sacrifice in the beginning. Part of what's tough these days, it seems like that, is immediate gratification, and that's something we didn't have growing up, that, and there's so many distractions these days that, we didn't have either, so that's another challenge for this and I get it. But at the same time, you have to recognize that too as yourself, and you have to say, okay, like I said, if you're playing video games 3 hours, do an hour and a half of studying, right? I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying set aside time to make yourself better,
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm
No,
preaching now as a dad. I got
no,
the dad hat on.
that is like that is key. That is gold right there, and I hope the audience really takes that to like heart, because it is gold, like right there. Because if we go back to instant gratification, the reason I feel that is very common now these days is because we have technology. We pick up our phones. As soon as you open up Instagram, Facebook. Hey, I'm a 21-year-old millionaire living out of Miami. See how I bought this Bugatti in 3 days? Go ahead, so you see that stuff and you consume it, you eat it, and then it's like, to be honest, it's bullshit. You get fed these lies, but it's like, no, they don't talk about, and those are just like the fake gurus, right?
Yeah.
But like people like yourself and like other people that went through the hurdles, through the obstacles to get there. They didn't look for excuses not to try, right? It's just like going back to the explanation you gave. You guys got bases up until now. And for every base you got, you ended up with a home run if you really look at it, right? But people don't want that.
And there you go, man. It's not always about the home runs, the base hit. You got to get on base though. If you don't get on base, you have no chance, right? It's like, another young cat I like to watch on YouTube is Cameron Burke. He's 24 years old. Dude, he's a solid dude. So and he's 24 years old. He's been doing it for 5 years already, and he's
Wow.
self-taught too, and he's buying homes, and I think his portfolio is up to $10 million or something. I mean,
Wow.
and I love that. That's great, and he doesn't come from a. He actually had to take custody of his brother because his mom's in trouble and stuff. So
Wow.
the guy doesn't come from a silver spoon, golden spoon, whatever. He comes from the hard knocks, man. He's over there in Oklahoma City, but my hat is off to guys like that. Your excuses don't mean shit.
Yeah.
Go out there and go get it.
Yeah.
So it's like, and just seeing guys like that, young guys like that, I love that stuff. It's just awesome for me.
No, yeah. Well, I mean, you gave me a shot. I'm a young guy.
Yeah.
I could have been like,
Yeah.
what does this kid know? But it really does mean a lot, especially because like I've been in those positions sometimes where it's like, well, you're a young kid. Like, what
Yeah.
do you know? But it's like, how do I get that experience without actually doing it? Right?
You know what? Maybe that goes back to me too. I was kind of like that way though too. I was like, man, no one ever gives me a chance. You know what I mean? Because I was young, but I was always, I'm always ambitious. I always wanted to get stuff done. And maybe that's why it resonates with me better. That I was that guy. I was like, hey, give me a chance, kind of deal. And then so when I have the opportunity myself. I like to do that where I can too. So.
Yeah.
Anyways.
No, yeah. It's like paying it forward, to I do the same thing when I can. When I see opportunities, like I have cousins, younger brothers, siblings, I talk to them. I try to tell them like,
Yeah.
stay consistent with it. You're gonna get tons of no's, but for every no you get, you're closer to a yes. Just keep trying.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean that's the key is keep learning, never stop learning, never stop learning, never stop learning. Look at I'm getting the half century mark myself, and I'm still learning. Like my son. I know I keep talking about him. We're close.
Yeah, it's fine.
But he wanted to do day training. I said, they're gonna eat you up, man. Like you need to have a course. So, I got him in the course. 24-week course and this and that and but I learned from it though too because they recorded every session, so I went through and I learned all that too. I was learning that too, and it's like, wow, and that's helped me too. Actually, the money that I made in April on that dip was from watching those charts, and then I took that money that I made from that dip, and then that's why I rolled it over to these to diversify my portfolio at the time. So, but the thing is, never stop learning, man. It's like you're never too old to stop learning. If there's any message that I want to go through here is always keep learning. So because that is the key to everything, and even old dogs can learn new tricks.
Oh yeah, amen. Yeah, and let's talk about another thing. What about the challenges? With everything. What's made like with all the challenges that we're hearing now or going through and seeing, right? How does one overcome those challenges?
Well, I mean that's a pretty big. If
Right.
you want to narrow that down.
Yeah, let's narrow it down. Okay. So, for example, let's talk about.
We micro, macro. What are we doing here?
So let's talk about, for example, real estate.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Rates are high right now. With
Wow.
what's happening right now, it scares some people. It's kind of shaky, right? So, like, how do you deal with the tolerance of that stress level of like uncertainty, right?
Yeah. Well, that's still historically these rates are low. I mean, when I bought my first place, we were at 7.5 anyway, and which, I mean, you probably know better than I, but DSCR is probably what's around 7.5 right now anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, historically they're still reasonably low. I mean, at the time I got it, I thought, oh yeah, I did well.
When you bought your house,
Yeah.
what year was that? Your first
That was
house?
02.
02? Okay.
Yeah. If people are doing the math, now they have that.
Okay, I know when my grandpa, when he bought his houses in the 80s, I think they're like at 13 or 14%.
Yeah, yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean that's what I'm saying. Historically, they're still pretty decent. Just make your deal in the on the property side. So people are saying as rates are coming, are going up, right? And then you know there's less buyers in the market, so that's why you go in at the 25% haircut, like I said. Go in on the other side, right? So, and I was watching some of those YouTubes too, and they were like, basically last, August, September was probably the best time to buy actually too. So,
Yeah,
every
because
clock
the
is
market shifted after.
every clock is right twice a day for me, but
Well,
because I just got lucky in that sense. But
well,
um,
like I'm a firm believer in there's like right times to buy, like seasonal times, right? Like there's seasons, and then we're not like fortune tellers when we are gonna know that rates
yeah.
are, they're gonna go down or they're gonna go up, but you kind of get like it's kind of like a hunch that you kind of get, like you just kind of fill in.
Sure, but these are rentals for me. So as long as I'm cash flowing, I really don't care what the property's worth. You know what I mean? Until I go to sell it. But I'm not going to sell it for 5 to 10 years anyway,
Right.
right? So as long as it's cash flowing right now, why do I care if it goes down 10%? Like I don't, right? So I bought it right. So I have built-in safety on that already, right? And the other thing is don't get over leveraged. A lot of these people, nah, I want to say a lot. Now I'm judging, right? No, just kidding. But I'm saying, but people get greedy and they get over leveraged, right? They're like, oh, let me buy another one. Let me buy another one, right? But what if the stuff hits the fan and now these guys got to move out, right? Now you got to carry that note, right? So don't be over leveraged in the sense that you can't carry that nut, because
Right.
it doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to be rented out, right? So while it's income producing, save that nut,
Right.
right? Build that nut up. And then that way you're saving for a rainy day. Don't over leverage yourself that if something happens, now you're like, oh shit, right? Because the people that win in the long run are the ones that can cover the rainy day.
Right.
And if you can't cover the rainy day, then now you just lost all your equity because you lost your property because you couldn't afford it,
Right.
right? So, you know, playing a little bit of caution is okay. Like I'm in a position now where, okay, I worked all this way to get to where I'm at, but now it's about keeping what I have.
Right.
It's about being a little bit more cautious because I don't have that much more time to recoup. You're younger. I have time to recoup. I don't, right? So I have to be a little bit more cautious on what I'm doing, in the sense of I don't want to overextend myself. If that over leverage, overextend,
Yeah.
same vein, right? It's the same thing, but
Well, it's similar to what I was mentioning earlier, right? Like you want to have some money set aside for those rainy days, for those accidents,
yeah,
because life happens. Like we were talking about, cash is king
yeah.
when it comes to these kinds of situations, right? A lot of people are gonna comment like Bitcoin all the way,
Yeah, I know you
Bitcoin.
and I were talking off camera. Cash is trash,
Yeah, cash is.
but in the down market, cash is king. And I mean, I don't know if you want to get into the private credit situation that's going on too, but the storms are brewing. It seems like so. The private credit market. For those that you don't know, that's after '08, they had more stringent regulations that made them not make the loans that they did prior to the GFC, Great Financial Crisis. So, in doing so, they created, you know, shadow banking, if you will, private credit. So that's where Blackstone, BlackRock, Blue Owl, KKRs, those guys, Apollos come into place. So the banks lend to those shadow banks, right? And then those shadow banks then put it out, and that's including what you see with, the DSCR loans, even the hard money loans. A lot of that stuff comes from private credit, and then also where you're also seeing that too is on the technology side with the software companies because AI is coming in.
Right.
So AI is coming. I mean, look at Microsoft. Microsoft's down almost 50%. But look up the Blackstones and BlackRocks and KKRs and Blue Owls. They're down 30 and 40, 20%. So I mean they're already taking hits.
Right.
So something's happening behind there, right? And because it is private credit, they don't have to report to regulators. So we don't really know what's behind there. Right?
What's behind the curtain?
Yeah. So some people are saying between 2 and 5 trillion, right? So the GFC was 2 and 3 trillion. So I mean, obviously the market's bigger now, but that's still pretty significant. So I mean, there's that. So you gotta. I'm being a little bit more cautious right now, just because there's a lot of red flags right now for me personally. You got this conflict in Iran, but that increased your 10-year, which went up. So that affected rates, of course. And then you have the shock in oil. So and especially when you're tenants, you got B and C properties, which they're affected by energy costs. That affects their bottom line. I mean, some of these guys are month to month, with their paycheck. An increase in the gas, of $1 or $2, and that takes away from the bottom line. They say it's inflationary, but at the end, people are going to stop buying less stuff, and if people stop buying less stuff, then people get hours cut,
right?
And then it just, the Fed's in a tough spot right now.
Right.
They're in a damned if they do, damned if they don't situation, to be honest. But
but something has to give.
Something will give.
Yeah.
Something will give, and I just playing a little bit of caution right now. For me, keeping cash on the sideline is and looking for opportunities bigger than what's here right now. I know that market dip, whatever, 7%. That's nothing, right? So if I miss it at 7%, I ain't worried about it. I'm, because the other thing is too, those private credits, they're doing commercial stuff. Commercial has to, every 5 years, on the balloon, right? So they have to refinance every 5 years. In 21, 22, rates were basically zero. Right. So now they have to come and refinance, and now rates have ticked up.
Yeah.
And properties have come down. So they either have to make up the difference, right? And come out of pocket, make up the difference, and pay a higher, a higher rate, and then more money towards interest. On top of insurance, taxes, right?
Because that's gone up as well.
Yeah.
We've seen that here.
And then also because that rate was so low that they built so many, they're saying 500,000 apartment units are coming on in the U.S., in different markets, but still 500,000. Even for us, when I set those out to rent, it took me 2 months to put people in there, and I had to reduce the cost. Some of these multifamily, which are more than 4 bedrooms, right? So we're talking apartment buildings and so forth, but they're giving 2 months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months free, right? So, but the tricky thing with these guys is what they're doing is, so they'll give 2 or 3 months, right? But they want it at the same rate. But instead of dropping the rate, they'll keep it at the same price. That way they can show the investors, oh no, this is what rate we're getting. Yeah, so they're being tricky.
Oh yeah.
They're being tricky. So they're
smoke and mirrors.
They're playing smoke and mirrors right now.
Yeah.
So you gotta be careful with that stuff, right? So, and that's not good sign. That's red flag stuff.
Yeah. No, I've seen interesting things happen for sure. I think that's why going back to verifying the information and who you're working with is also like very key and crucial for sure. But,
yeah, and I mean that doesn't mean it's going to come down to single family. This is multifamily. Like I said, it's big buildings, big projects. That these guys are in. But it becomes a perception at that point, right? So it becomes perception of the market versus, in the media, not everything is always as bad as they say it is, and it's not always as good as they say it is too. Like I said, you got to take stuff with a grain of salt. Don't believe everything you read and see, because it's, they sensationalize stuff just to get more clicks and more people to view. So, do your own research too, but even these days too, is like even the government reports that come out with unemployment and stuff, they adjusted. Like at the end of Biden's term, it was we adjusted for 900,000. It's like, what?
Yeah.
That's almost 1 million jobs. Like what?
Yeah, there's so many things that can be manipulated.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
To fit any sort of perception or agenda.
Yeah.
Right? But like you said, educate yourself on these things, take things with a grain of salt, and verify your sources, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh,
but the other thing is too, as a young person starting out, to make sure you have good credit, man. Like don't take on the credit cards. Don't take on the credit card stuff. Have good credit, Take pride in yourself, because that credit is you. That represents you. Take pride in yourself. And that means you're being responsible, And that goes a long way. And then unfortunately that's what you have to do to prove yourself, right? So, but that's the easiest way to prove yourself. Listen, I'm responsible. Look at my credit card, my credit score rather. And then don't have debt. If you have debt, credit card debt, whatever, take care of that. Get rid of it. Don't have it, Even if you're saving $100 a paycheck, at least it puts you in the mindset of, I'm saving, right? And dial yourself into living, in your means. I know you see this stuff on Instagram and all that stuff. You get caught up. Oh, I need to do this. I need to go on that. Like, that's all short-term stuff. What do you want?
Right.
What do you want?
What is a long-term goal here?
Yeah. You can get that short-term gratification, that high. That's great. But now you're 5 years down the road and you're like, oh, well, I had a good time. I have nothing to show. I got memories.
What's changed? Yeah. Oh, I got this on my Instagram photo.
And I mean, that's great too, if you can, of course. And
yeah.
I'm not saying that. Don't get me twisted. If you can, then do it.
Don't go.
But if you're already living paycheck to paycheck, know yourself. Like I said, not everybody's the same, right? So you have to dial into what fits you. Like you have to dial in your finances to what fits you. Tailor make to you.
Listen to that, guys. That is gold right there. Well, hey, Loren, I really do appreciate you for getting on our podcast again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're an amazing host. This is a really cool setup, so I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Thank you.